Demon Slayer has quickly become one of the biggest shonen anime of the last few years ever since the anime came out. But there are a lot of interesting Easter eggs, fun facts, and background details that you may not have known. So buckle up, because we're gonna get right into the world of Demon Slayer, including some information about the manga that served as Demon Slayer's prototype. For starters, did you know that Tanjiro's name has a bit of a symbolism for it? That's right, the kanji reading for his first name contains the characters for charcoal. This of course makes sense because Tanjiro used to just be a charcoal trader before becoming a Demon Slayer. Speaking of names, a lot of names in Demon Slayer do have special meanings behind them. For example, Inosuke's name does include part of the Japanese word for boar, inoshishi. Boars are, of course, a major motive for Inosuke thanks to his unusual fashion sense. Meanwhile, Zenitsu's last name is Agatsuma, which means my wife. This is very fitting when you consider how Tanjiro first properly met Zenitsu. That's right, Zenitsu was desperately begging for some random girl to marry him. One more name we'd like to touch on is Daki, or rather her real name, Ume. Now, literally speaking, Ume means plum, but that's not the main thing we're talking about. See, her brother Gyutaro mentions that Ume is the same name as the disease that killed their mother. This seems to imply that it was syphilis that killed her. The Japanese word for syphilis is baidoku, and when spelled out in kanji, looks like this. But the bai part of the word can also be read as ume when you take away the second character, like this. This is just another example of Japanese wordplay in action. Gyutaro's mother's disease may also explain his unusual appearance. He may just be afflicted with congenital syphilis, a condition that affects children who are born from mothers who had syphilis while pregnant. Obviously, Gyutaro's appearance is exaggerated for effect, but his appearance does match the symptoms of congenital syphilis. Of course, Gyutaro isn't even the strangest looking member of the 12 Kizuki. That would probably be Gyoko thanks to his creepy fish-like face and lack of legs or regular arms in his normal form. However, Gyoko's muscular torso and lack of arms may be a reference to the famous sculpture Venus de Milo. This reference would make a lot of sense. After all, Gyoko does consider himself to be an artist. Another character with an unusual appearance is Hantengu, the upper rank 4 of the 12 Kizuki. His default form has what appears to be a giant tumor on his forehead. Believe it or not, there's actually a reason for this. It's a reference to the Japanese folktale Kobutori Ji-san, roughly translating to the old man's lump removed. It's the story of an old woodcutter with a lump on his face who meets a group of friendly oni in the forest. Hantengu's most powerful form is the demon of hatred, Zohakuten. But what's most interesting about him are the drums on his back. These drums are based on the Japanese storm god Raijin, who is often depicted with a similar circle of drums attached to his back. Fans of One Piece may already be familiar with this thanks to the character Enil, also having drums like this on his back. Let's move on from the demon moons for a moment and talk about some interesting facts about Hashira. For example, did you know that the strange whip-like sword that Mitsuri uses is actually a real weapon? That's right, it may look like something made up for the manga, but it's actually based on a weapon from India called an urumi. The version we see Mitsuri using is actually the single-bladed kind. There are types of urumi swords with multiple metal blades attached. Another Hashira that has some interesting background information is Tengen Uzui. An early design for him shows some small but significant differences. He has a much slimmer build and has some sort of bandages or a mask over his face, as well as a shirt with sleeves. It makes him look a lot more like a typical ninja. And while it still definitely looks like Tengen, it's hard to imagine this version of him having the same flashy and flamboyant personality. While we're on the topic of Tengen and his distinct style, have you ever noticed how he's one of the only characters to dual-wield swords? The only other character to use 2 swords at once is Inosuke. In real life, using 2 swords at once isn't the most effective, but it sure does look cool, which is why it definitely fits Inosuke and Tengen the best. The stone Hashira, Gyomei Himejima, is one of the Hashira who hasn't had too much attention in the anime yet, but he's still quite interesting. You may have noticed that he's blind, but the source of his blindness was actually revealed in one of the official fan books. You may think he was blinded while fighting a demon or something, but it was actually the result of a fever he had as a small child. The same book also reveals something interesting about Shinobu, or more specifically, her pet goldfish. Yes, you may have noticed the goldfish that Shinobu keeps, but the book actually gives the fish a name. Their name is Fugu, which is a reference to Shinobu and her use of poison in combat. See, a fugu is a type of pufferfish known for being incredibly toxic. In fact, chefs actually need a special license in order to prepare fugu for consumption. Have you ever wondered about the strange mask that Haganezuka and the other swordsmiths wear? It's actually depicting a comedic character called Hyotoko. The Hyotoko is considered something of a broad character archetype. A European equivalent would be the various characters from Commedia dell'arte plays. Speaking of plays, did you know there was a stage adaptation of Demon Slayer? Yep, that's right. There have been 2 plays covering different arcs of Demon Slayer. And yes, they're musicals if you were wondering. As far as we know, the plays have not been officially subtitled yet, which is unfortunate because the production values look great. It also turns out that the actor who plays Tanjiro, Ryota Kobayashi, is already experienced in stage adaptations of anime. He played Bakugo in the stage version of My Hero Academia. And yes, that means stage adaptations of anime are a thing in Japan. As far as we know, the only anime to get a musical in America was Pokemon.
Prepare for trouble. Make it double.
Another interesting thing about Demon Slayer is the titles it has in other languages. In fact, even the English title isn't the literal translation of Kimetsu no Yaiba. If literally translated, the English title would be Blade of Demon Destruction, which, while cool, doesn't sound quite as catchy as Demon Slayer. Meanwhile, the French title for Demon Slayer translates The Night Prowlers, while the Spanish title means Guardians of the Night. These are honestly pretty cool titles, but we feel like they don't reflect the plot of the story as well. Another interesting thing about the English version of Demon Slayer's anime is that there's a surprising amount of overlap with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in the English voice cast. For example, Tanjiro's dub actor Zach Aguilar was also the English voice of Koichi Hirose from Diamond is Unbreakable. Meanwhile, Inosuke's voice actor was the dub voice of Caesar Zeppeli from Battle Tendency, and even Zenitsu's voice actor had previously played minor JoJo villain named Zukuro. This is actually kind of funny, since Demon Slayer's creator Kiyoharu Gotoge has named JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as one of their inspirations. There are even some interesting parallels. For example, the first 2 parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure involve a breathing-based martial art called Hamon, while of course in Demon Slayer there are all the various breathing styles. Okay, so you may remember at the start of this video, we talked about a sort of prototype to Demon Slayer. Well, now's the time to get to it. All the way back in 2013, Gotoge wrote a one-shot manga called Kagari Gari. It served as a sort of blueprint that would eventually become Demon Slayer. Of course, a lot of stuff was different. For example, the monsters in Kagari Gari were vampires and not demons. And a lot of Demon Slayer's main cast like Inosuke, Zenitsu, and even Tanjiro hadn't been created yet, so there's no sign of them in the manga. But what's even more interesting are the things that stayed the same. Early versions of Tamayo and Yushiro appear in Kagari Gari and even have the same names, as well as a character who heavily resembles Muzan. Other ideas carried over from this one-shot including the final selection and crows being used to carry messages. Another interesting thing about Muzan's design that fans have noticed is how he kind of resembles the late King of Pop, Michael Jackson. Specifically, Michael Jackson in his outfit for the Smooth Criminal music video. Probably just a coincidence, but the resemblance is seriously uncanny. We can't deny though that Muzan does indeed operate like a smooth criminal. Now, if you're a Demon Slayer fan, you probably already know all about the Hinokami Kagura and how Tanjiro remembered it from his father. But did you know that Tanjiro also inherited something from his mother too? That's right, according to one of the supplementary books, Tanjiro's trademark hard head is something he shares with his mother. She once even headbutted a boar. While we're talking about Tanjiro's family, let's talk about Nezuko for a moment. If you notice, when we first meet her, Nezuko has her hair done up, but in the rest of the series she wears it loose. This is because Tanjiro has no idea how to style her hair, and Demon Nezuko can't do it on her own. This is probably why Nezuko looks so happy when Mitsuri braids her hair during the Swordsmith Village arc. Another very funny piece of trivia, did you know that Zenitsu actually placed 29th in the character popularity poll? No, not the Demon Slayer popularity poll, the one for the Promised Neverland. This came about thanks to a meme in Japan editing images from both manga together to make it look like the Promised Neverland character Sister Kurone is scaring him. Sister Kurone from Promised Neverland also placed 59th in one of the Demon Slayer's popularity polls. She was tied in votes with Tanjiro's earrings and the boulder Tanjiro cut in half. She did somehow manage to beat Gyomei in the poll though. So yeah, there's a whole lot about Demon Slayer that you may not have known. And trust us, there's still plenty more that we didn't have time to go over in this video. So, what do you think? Did you learn anything new from this video?